Okay, but if you don't have it in a legal document, it is not that simple. And you're not here to defend yourself. You are either already passed or you're completely incapacitated and you can't even communicate with your loved ones.
Who I need to be, coming from the heart, coming from the heart.
Welcome back to MOMnation from the Heart. And now a word from our sponsor.
Hello, this is Veronica with Spa Specialist Beauty Within, where we believe that beauty truly starts from within. Being healthy on the inside will definitely show on the outside. You can purchase gift certificates, buy products, book your spa services, or even holistic coaching right from our website at www.spaspecialistbeautywithin.com or call us at 603-858-1556. Have an amazing day.
Hey Mom Nation, we are back with another episode of From the Heart where we share inspirational stories, useful information, and we discuss a variety of women-related topics. I'm Katie, the founder of MOMnation, and I would love to take an opportunity to welcome these super cool guests. I am really excited to get into this conversation with you guys because this is something that I don't think a lot of parents really think about, and it can really bite you in the butt at the most inopportune moment. Would you agree?
Yep,
They're like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen it. So Becky and Ally from Easton Law PLLC is who we have with us today. We're going to talk through a couple of really key things, a couple of really important things that parents of children, well, obviously, right, need to think about. And sometimes, when we first start having babies, there's so many things that come at us. There's so many things to think about: college, and where are they going to go? Never mind college. Where are they going to go to elementary school? Like, I don't know about you ladies, but elementary school took me an entire summer to figure out because there was just so much information. So as parents, we have a lot coming at us, and it can be difficult to sift through what's really important and what those priorities are and what are those things that we need to get out of the way. So that way, in the event, knock on wood, hopefully it never happens, but in the event tragedy happens, we're safe, we're secure, we've got a plan. Right? I mean, How many times you guys run into parents, and I hate to hear this answer because I'm sure it's more than we should have, but how many times you run into parents that just aren't set up just because they don't have the knowledge? Maybe their parents didn't guide them in that direction. We certainly don't learn this stuff in school. So how many times have you guys bumped into some super tragic stories?
Tragic stories definitely come along. And first of all, I thanks so much for having us on today, Katie. It's really fun to be here again. Tragic stories come along. We definitely hear about them. But I think it's extremely common simply to just not be prepared at all. Like, even to not necessarily have, it's tragic anytime if something happens and you're not prepared for it. But I think it's something like, 56% of adults in the United States have done no estate planning whatsoever. So, never mind people who have, minor children who could get caught up in, CPS or, some sort of like guardianship, things like that. So, never mind that. But, so many people, it's just so common. Or if you have done it, it's super outdated. Yeah. So, is it going to work today? Maybe.
Right. Because things change, right? I'm in the real estate industry, and it seems like the laws change, our contracts change, the things we have to worry about, they change really, really frequently. Mm-hmm. And if you're not up on that, like you said, Becky, if you had your plan made 20 years ago, then things probably have changed in the last 20 years.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and even particularly in the last, when did the Secure Act go into play? 2 years ago. And that drastically changed how you're able to pass down retirement assets to someone. Yes. So, as opposed to being able to, keep it in trusts and distribute it out over their lifetime and, things like that, take the, those RMDs and everything, it has to be done within 10 years. Well, you may not want someone to have all that money in 10 years.
Right.
You know? So yeah, so things like that. I used to think or feel that things didn't change all that often, but I think there's always, every now and again we have major changes, but there's always a new way of kind of thinking about things. And this sort of like kids protection planning is kind of one different way that our firm thinks about things, trying to make sure that, you know, you as a parent are covered in the event of, you know, just your incapacity or an accident, right? You know, when you're still alive, but, you know, someone needs to step in and take care of your kids. And so who is it who has that authority, and what's that look like?
Right. And that could probably get really sticky and really crazy depending on the situation. So walk me through it. So let's just say, again, heaven forbid, knock on wood, all the things. Let's just say my husband and I get into a tragic car accident. We don't come home. My 7-year-old is an orphan. What would happen if I didn't have a plan in place?
Yeah. So let's see. I mean, we just kind of imagine that scenario, right? You and your husband have gone out. You don't come home. Kids are with a babysitter, let's say, not with a relative. They're with a babysitter. Police officers show up, like, let's say you haven't come home yet, and the babysitter either calls or they found out that you're in an accident. And so they, you know, they come to the house and to try to get the kids. And, you know, what happens to them at that point? Your babysitter doesn't have, or probably doesn't have, any sort of legal authority necessarily to be with your kids. Like, they're just a 15-year-old watching, you know,
A
watching your
neighbor or
kids.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, just a neighbor. And so they're not, you know, a police officer or, you know, CPS, if they need to come in and, you know, take care of your children, they're not going to leave them with a neighborhood kid, you know, no matter what the kid says, no matter what your children say.
Right.
So, you know, you risk, even just for a moment until we find out, you know, who has authority to be with your kids, who can come get them, drop everything and come get them, you know, where does that leave your kids in that time frame of, you know, the police have just showed up at my door, we can't find mom and dad, and now I have to go somewhere with them,
That's
you know, yeah.
It's literally
I mean,
the
Ally,
worst
talk about it.
moment. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about our young children,
Right.
all of our minor children range from infancy to even 17 years old. It's the most tragic time in their life where they don't know if their parents are even going to make it. They just know that something terrible has happened, and now they're being whisked away by the police and probably taken, you know, to like a local station until they can figure out either if, you know, DCS has to come and get them, or, you know, like who is your short-term guardian.
Mhm.
So it's really important to be thinking about. I think also education, for the most part, is that it's not that people don't want to have this plan in place, they just don't know how to go about it, or they
Right.
don't have enough education, and that's where we come in.
Right.
You know, Becky tells you everything that is going to happen in that scenario. And then you want to be thinking about short-term guardians. You know, I think a lot of people say, oh, they're just going to go to my sister, or, oh, they'll just go to my brother. Okay. But if you don't have it in a legal document, it is not that simple. And you're not here to defend yourself. You are either already passed or you're completely incapacitated, and you can't even communicate with your loved ones.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and to dovetail on that, let's say you have two sisters who would jump in to take care of your children at the drop of the hat if they needed to. And one is, you know, kind of a suburban housewife, you know, a couple kids, a husband that has a well-to-do job. You know, they seem to be very active in the community and in their church and everything. And then you have another sister who's like, you know, mid-20s. She's just getting her life together, and, you know, things are doing really, really well now, but they haven't always been, right? And so if you're thinking of those two people and you were the judge, who seems like the better person, right?
Option A.
The sister over here. right?
Yeah.
She seems great. She already has a couple kids, you know, good job. She can definitely take care of them and travel. Well, yeah, you hate the way she raises her children. You hate that relationship that she has built. And you know that she and her husband are always at each other's throats. And it is an incredibly stressful household to be in. Well, that's not necessarily going to come across to the courts.
Right.
And also, you know, with your little sister that she would do absolutely anything. And she's ready to drop everything. She's already even talked to you about it, you know, about that possibility. And, you know, she's getting there, and she would really raise your kid the best way, in your opinion. So, you know, like,
But
in
how,
that situation, you know, they're both likely to step up. So we have to name them.
Right. How do you get that idea across to a judge that has no idea about the details of your family if there isn't something in writing that they can access, basically, right?
Yep. That's it. You end up, you know, in litigation, or, you know, with your kids living with someone that you wouldn't want them with.
So let's go back to the scenario. Kids in the police station. There's no plan in place. What is the next step for the child? So the courts basically say, okay, we're going to have a hearing, and they talk to the two sisters, or like, what's all that happening in between?
Sure. So, I mean, it'll just ultimately depend on kind of those familial like relationships. So if you have family that can come and show that they're family, and things like that, then, you know, that's helpful. But again, they're not necessarily the people you would want. And without any sort of document, then yes, ultimately, in order to get, you know, that guardianship designated, and in order to be able to, you know, allow your sister to register your kids in school, to get them health care, to do any of the things that, you know, a guardian would be able to do, or an agent under powers of attorney would be able to do, which you can prepare for your kids as well. You know, we end up having to go to the court to get that determined.
So this could be a good amount of time, is what it sounds like.
And it can get very ugly.
I was going to say, like, especially if Sister A and Sister B don't get along, that could cause some issues. So where's the child in this particular circumstance while we're waiting for a hearing and Sister A and Sister B are fighting over it? And like, where do they go?
Well, psychologically, they're completely traumatized.
Yeah.
Because now they've been misplaced from everything they've ever known in their comfort zone. Their parents are either no longer with us, or we don't know what's going to happen, if they're even going to wake up. And now they don't even know where they're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. But who physically, you know,
potentially have that family fighting over them. And they would probably be placed with parents, or I'm sorry, parents, with other family members, if there were, or then you end up with kind of emergency proceedings that, you know, to get things done faster when they need to be.
So could they potentially go into foster care?
Potentially.
Wow, that's scary. That's real scary.
Even if it's just for, you know, like a couple days, right? You know, until we can figure out what's going on, then yeah, no, that's, I don't know. It's a terrifying idea.
It is. It really
is. If you can avoid it, right? If you can so easily avoid it, I think.
So let's talk about that. Same scenario, but now the parents have a plan in place. What's the difference?
All right. So you and your younger sister B, you knew that you've already had this discussion. You definitely know that, you know, she would absolutely step up to the plate. And so instead you've sat down and written out some paperwork that designates her as the guardian. And that, you know, if that way, all she would need to show is this paperwork that you have legally nominated her as the guardian. If it has to go to court to have her, you know, officially nominated, you have this document, which, you know, like cut to the front of the line. And then, again, just also gives kind of those same powers. You had maybe set in place additional like powers of attorney for your kids. So like I mentioned, being able to register them in school or for sports, or, open up a bank account for them, things like that. Anything you could do for your kids. And then also all their health care, and taking care of all that. What if they're in the accident with you?
Right.
But you guys are in the coma and your kids are alive and just need healthcare decisions made.
Right.
Or, all of you just need healthcare decisions made. Like, what's that look like?
Right. And so this is a recorded document. So the law enforcement or whomever ends up getting involved first then goes to recorded documents to pull this information, or how do they figure it out?
Sure. So it's not a recorded document. This is just private between, you and the people that you nominate, and the court when if you have to submit it, at which point then it becomes a public document.
Okay.
But until then, you don't actually have to record anything, which is kind of the nice thing if, for Sister A, we're not nominating her, right? But, we have a bad relationship. Okay. And so I'm not going to tell her that.
Right. Right.
We don't need to even have that conversation, because if I make it until my kids are 18, it's never going to be an issue. I don't need to make waves over here. Right. So again, kind of, well, what happens? I know for sure I don't want her raising my kids. So the guardian nomination is great. But let's say she wants to make some amount of stink about it anyway, just because that's her personality, Okay. You also have the ability with our kids protection planning to draft like a confidential exclusion letter, which is designed to tell that person exactly why you would not ever want them raising your children. And with the idea that it would deter them from making any sort of claims. Because, you're like, hi, this is exactly why I'm telling you to your face. Well, in a letter, because I'm not here. I'm telling you in a letter exactly what we will be submitting to the court if you try to fight any of this. This is why I didn't pick you. So we're talking kind of extreme situations here, but it doesn't even have to be. Yeah, it doesn't even really have to be extreme necessarily. A lot of, people change religions and their family doesn't agree with it.
Right.
And now you don't want them raised in that particular faith. Okay.
Now I can see, Ally, why you said it could get really ugly.
It can get really ugly. And, another scenario could be like one of your siblings was a great fit, but she married a jerk. And now she has a toxic relationship, and the husband has an alcohol issue, and you just don't want your kids growing up in that environment. So, it could be, there's a boatload of reasons, which everybody has of their own, why they don't want their precious, perfect little pride and joy being raised by X, Y, and Z. It's really, really important to put this on paper, because you're not here to speak for yourself. And so this document that you've drafted up tells exactly why your wishes need to state your wishes. And, it's your child. And so even after you've passed away, you should still have that comfort and that empowerment and that authority to say, these are still my children and these are my wishes. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So when, and we all don't do this every day like you guys do, so don't laugh. But so when we think of personal preparation, I think of trusts and wills and all this stuff. And I don't even know what half those things mean, but this is not quite that. This is something different, right? This is choosing a guardian. Talk to me a little bit about the differences so that way our audience can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is in connection with, planning with a trust or a will. Almost everybody is familiar with needing to establish a will, or the idea, right? Again, like Most of us don't do it. The needing to establish a will once you have kids so you can name a guardian for them if you die. And the issue with that, if you will, is that you have to die for that person to come into effect, right? Coming back to our situation that we were talking about, you're just in a car accident. You're very much alive. You just can't speak to us or communicate to us. So what happens then? You know, we don't, you know, oh, sorry, I squirreled.
It happens to me all the time.
Right, I know. I was trying to clear a thing on my phone.
Yeah,
Totally
it
squirreled.
happens.
So just in addition, right? And so you classically were thinking of a will to name a guardian, but what about that document outside? You know, you're just incapacitated, right?
Right.
You're just incapacitated. Who's taking care of your kids right then? Or let's say your permanent guardians live in Canada, or just across country, or they're just traveling that week and they're not home. You know, who then takes care of your kids until they get back? You know, and that's why Ally mentioned it a little bit ago, you know, thinking about naming temporary guardians. You know, so who can be with your kids? This is, you know, really close friends and family, you know, neighbors, your kids' best friends' parents, you know, just anyone who would just scoop them up in a pinch and take care of them, not necessarily forever. You know, you could leave them overnight for a few nights if you had to, right? So making sure that is taken care of. And then beyond that, you know, speaking of your, you know, your own planning, you know, we talked a little bit about healthcare and financial powers of attorney with regards to your kids, but you know, again, you're in a car accident, you're in a coma. Who's making those healthcare decisions for you? Who is able to access your bank account in order to pay your bills? You know, who's able to ensure that your life insurance policy gets paid that last month? Because if it lapses, your life insurance is going to be canceled and no one is getting anything.
Wow.
That's one of the more heartbreaking ones that I see. I wouldn't say commonly, but I definitely saw it a couple times during the pandemic. You know, someone would get sick, go into the hospital, last payment didn't get made.
Wow.
And they canceled the policy.
Ouch. That could be tragic, you know, especially if it's the breadwinner that leaves the family and then, you know, leaves the family in debt and whatnot. I'm sure we could do a whole other show on that. So let's talk about how we go about choosing a guardian. Is it wise to meet with somebody like you up front? Probably, to get like the whole rundown, right? And then obviously you got to put it into a legal document. So take me through that a little bit, if you would.
Sure. I think probably one of the most important things in thinking of a guardian is just who's going to love your kids like you'd love your kids. Who's going to give them the best life just like you would. And our heads get full of, well, I should pick my sister. Well, I should pick my parents right now if they're young enough. And I really should do that. But no, these are your children. The planning is for them. Honestly, it's not for you. It does give you some amount of peace of mind knowing that it's done and everybody that you love is taken care of. We have those guardians named, and then, you know, stepping on, you know, up a few steps, you know, we have them set up with an appropriate amount of, you know, life insurance, have a trust, you know, things like that you just kind of add that, you know, add those layers of protection on. So that's giving you the peace of mind, but it's about them, you know, and about them having that easy transition, you know, like Ally was saying, you know, they're grieving right now, per se, you know, perhaps. They don't know what's going on with you. They're worried about you. Well, they also don't need to be worried about, where money's coming from, depending on how old they are, right? They don't need to be worried about those things, So being able to put that down in writing ahead of time and think about that, it's, I don't know. So you start ultimately, I think, coming back to the question it's just like thinking about it. It's hard. And we don't want to.
Yeah, it's hard
we
to
don't want
think
to.
that.
Yeah.
But just like commit a little bit of time to thinking about it, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. And, like at some, maybe just a couple minutes in, you're going to be like, I don't like this later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's okay. Come back to it later. Sit with it a little bit longer. And then you're going to be like, all right, I don't like this. And then you can leave again. But eventually you're going to have thought about it.
It's very
Right?
heavy
Even if
on your heart.
Yeah. Even if it's just 2 minutes at a time, then you will have thought about it. I think Ally can probably attest to this. I think we see our fair share of clients who just, I don't know, it's just kind of like information and decision paralysis.
Yeah.
It feels like such a big adulty decision, and what if I make the wrong decision? And I feel that. I feel that deep.
You can change it though, right? So like if you say you put it all together, and I have another question too. So this is twofold. Sorry, I'm hitting you with a bunch. So we're choosing a temporary, we're choosing a permanent. Now, do we need to choose somebody else in case the permanent something happens to the permanent, or do they deal with that?
I think I'm going to jump in here. I think it's really smart. So our website that has our KPP on there, it has multiple spots to fill for temporary, because, it's just like your lotto number comes up. But let's say at that time, the person who you thought that they were going to, go to, they're in the middle of like a really nasty divorce. And you didn't get to updating it. So you go next down the list, right? Like all of a sudden they're in this. So do you want your sister to be raising your kids as a single parent, or do you want to go next down the list to the next couple to, the next choice until maybe she can figure out something down the line? Or, you're just going to want to have multiple people that come to your mind. I would say at least 3 people. I think 3 people is safe. And, there's a lot of people that just feel like, oh, I don't have, people in my life that I would feel comfortable. And that's okay, because as long as you have one person or have thought consciously about, who they could go to during that time, it will work itself out. But the point is that something is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So say we make a plan, we think of our 3 people, we make a plan. Can we change it if we want to, like in a couple of years and nothing tragic has happened and everything's all good and, we're still able, mind and body and all that? We can make changes to this, right? It's not something that's set in stone that has to be like that forever once we make the decision.
No, you can change it. Absolutely. Anytime you want. We have a client who just came in. We had done all of their planning, and it was just kind of a life change with the sister, and they no longer would want their kids living in that household. Not really much. They're like, we don't really have hard feelings against her, but it's this household that she's living in, and we can't deal with that. And so, yeah, absolutely, we just switched that all out. And I think that's one of the benefits as well of just making it a habit, whether you're sitting down with, your attorney or not. Touch your documents and look at them every now and again. Because if it pops into your mind, go grab the binder off your shelf, because that's probably where it is, and just read through it. And, even right now, anyone who's watching right now, if you've done estate planning, if you've ever done, any sort of guardian nomination or any of that stuff, just go get it and look at it. What's going to happen if, who do you have named to make those decisions for you? Do you still want that person making those decisions for you? Has that person passed away? And similarly, even thinking of, and this is this is really our kind of first step in the process when you're working with our firm on any sort of estate planning. It's this inventory. What do I have? Where is it? And have I said who gets it when I die? And so, we're thinking like life insurance policies and 401ks and things like that. Like, who are your beneficiaries on that?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you hear about someone who didn't change their life insurance policy from their ex-wife's name as a beneficiary, and then they die, and
current wife is not too happy about that.
Current wife up for a little bit of money. Yeah, current wife not so happy about that situation.
Yeah.
So even sometimes you don't get it every time. Like that's another thing that I think we encourage with when you're starting to work with us and doing that homework, is that it can feel like a lot, depending on what you have and if you've ever organized it, right? It may seem like a whole lot. Well, no pressure. Just start to get it together. And then, come the end of the year, you're going to get an end of year statement for another account that you're like, oh yeah, hey, I forgot about that 401k from my first job.
Right. Right.
And so it doesn't have to, I don't know. It's daunting. It's a task that nobody wants to talk about. Like, we don't want to talk about dying. We're all going to do it though.
Right.
Katie, you're going to die.
We are.
Ally, you too. Me, all dying.
All of us.
It's the conversation to get people thinking, you know what? There's two things that are for sure. You're born and you die.
Yep.
We don't know our time frame, but we don't want to leave our loved ones or the survivors in predicaments where they have to figure out where everything is and go through probate and try to figure out how they get this account back because they need it to take care of so-and-so. I mean, it can be very overwhelming and it pulls on your heartstrings, but just know that something is better than nothing. Go through, do an inventory. Let us help you organize everything. Let us help explain the process. Let us help educate you. There's so many things that people just are not aware of because, like Katie said, they don't teach you about this in school unless you decide to become a lawyer.
Right.
And barely even then. I took like 2 classes, so.
It's just about really staying informed and staying on top of it. And I just adore working with Becky. She's filled with information. I'm always learning new things. And I know that helping our community is really important to her, and just being able to see that security of the feeling of our clients that they have done this and they can just kind of okay, well, if this ever happens, I've really strategically put a plan in place and I've put my whole blood, sweat, tears, and thought into it. And it's, it's my plan. And I know that if something were to happen, my last thought is not going to be, oh my God, what's going to happen to my kids?
Yeah. Well, let's face it. It's kind of, I'm going to go out on a limb and say a little swear here, but it's kind of a shitty thing to do to your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not poo-pooing anybody out there. You may just not know about this, and that's totally fine. Now you know, you can make a decision to move forward. But it's kind of like a shitty situation to leave your family members with no plan, no access to what's going on with your stuff. They got to clean out your house, handle your house. They got to do all this. And there's no map for them to follow. I've had a few girlfriends over the years that have, lost parents or, significant others, and there has been no plan in place. And it's it's crippling how overwhelming it is for those people.
Yeah.
And I personally, I don't want to do that to my family. They're dealing with enough, having to deal with the fact that I'm gone, right? You all shake your head. Yes, they're dealing with enough. They don't need to deal with that on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's also how we end up with, so many billions of dollars in Arizona's unclaimed property division. Billions.
Billions.
And if so, funny story. about that. I was meeting a friend for lunch the other day and was finishing up some work. He walks up, and the unclaimed property division was on my mind. And I was like, oh, hey, have you ever looked for this? Like, it's super fun. And every time I always look, for myself and thinking something will show up, but no.
Your $1 million house is coming, Becky. It's coming.
I know. No such luck for me. We pulled up 5 accounts in his name that he had forgotten about or didn't know about.
Oh my goodness.
Two of the accounts that we found were from 2004.
Oh, just a few minutes ago.
Just a few minutes. Just been sitting out there waiting for him to claim it.
It's crazy, but we're human. And if we're not fully organized and keep everything, in a little list and whatever, then that can happen, right? I mean, we live life, we do things, we forget, we have babies and we get mom brain, we forget stuff. Like, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, we don't have to feel bad about this. It's kind of fun, for me to be able to help people look for this, help you find things that you didn't know about, help you think about the ways to protect your kids that you wouldn't otherwise do. I mean, another one of the things that our firm does that most other firms aren't is doing a legacy interview with you after the fact. So, once we finished your estate planning, everything's signed, sealed, we're delivering that all back to you. We sit down and kind of interview you about various topics. So we send you a few questions ahead of time so you can kind of pick your topic, but either talking about your kids, how you and your spouse met. I just did one on my pets, which was super fun, like telling memories of the best, like my first pet. What do I remember about them? Did I always have pets in my life? And I don't know. It sounds funny, but I had like way more fun with it than I thought I was going to.
That is cute. So it's something that you can leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I see. That's really cute.
I mean, and how fun. Like, otherwise, all those stories are dying with you.
Right.
And wouldn't you kind of give a little bit more to have those stories told by your grandma?
Absolutely.
Or, so you could just listen to those. I mean, my mentor has a story about the last voicemail she ever had from her dad.
Aww.
And then her phone crashed and she lost it.
Oh.
And I'm just like, oh, I feel bad. But, so one of the things we've really focused on is that more holistic approach of, protecting you as like a parent and your children, making sure that you are protected in kind of the classic estate planning, incapacity, death planning ideas. Mm-hmm. And then also passing down those intangibles, like that means more in so many instances than money ever would.
Oh, absolutely. I love that idea. So back to the guardian thing for a real quick sec. So if somebody were to want to move forward with that and do the letter, do they need to meet with an attorney, or let me rephrase that question. What are the pros and cons of meeting with an attorney to facilitate this?
Absolutely. I think the pros of meeting with an attorney are just being asked some additional questions that you wouldn't otherwise think about. Mm-hmm. And just having a differently trained mind who is doing this all the time.
You're hearing stories, you're talking with other people, you have things of value to give to them, to suggest to them. You have stories of, hey, so-and-so didn't do it my way, and here's what happened to them, like that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And just, different little things like raise flags to me or to Ally than would anyone else who has never, worked in a law firm or seen the ill effects of, any of this. So that's definitely one advantage, and in particular of working with a personal family lawyer, which is one of the networks that I'm a part of, because we do all plan the same way with the kids protection planning included for parents. So, but yeah, I mean, you can get started for free. We have there are a few different free resources out there. To get started by naming, a permanent guardian for your kids for free online, which is just Easton Law. I'll send you these links so we can post them afterwards. eastonlaw.kidsprotectionplan.com. And that will get you in to name a guardian. And then you can even go in further and do some additional information and to get that full kids protection planning in place there.
Nice.
And then also we have a guide out that has, 9 common mistakes that, or 9 important things that you want to do when you're thinking about kids, or protecting your kids and ensuring that you're not making some of the common mistakes that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is available at kpp.eastonlawplllc.com/guide. And that will get you all of that wonderful info. And
It's
you can get started
awesome.
for free. Yeah. And we follow up. We don't spam, just unsubscribe if you don't want to talk to us.
Mhm.
My feelings will only be a little hurt.
Just a bit, just for a second. But it's
Just for a minute. I mean, we're fun. Come on.
You definitely are. I can attest. But it sounds a lot like in my industry, people think they can sell houses on their own all the time, right? And we know what kind of a train wreck that ends up being. They're oblivious, so they can even get to the end, sell their house, and think, I did a really good job for myself. Look at this. But they have no idea that they actually it was a total train wreck. So it sounds like it's the same sort of thing. Like there are resources out there. You could do this yourself. But I always give this example to my clients. I can do my own root canal, but do you think I'm going to do that? Like I can change my own oil, but you're not going to see me on my back under my car. Yes, I know I can do these things, but the real value in, you have to pay a little bit of money maybe. So what? Like you're getting value from that. The real value is knowing that, look, it's done right. And I thought of everything. Like,
right.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on that, there's ways to do your own planning, but it is not uncommon if you don't do it properly or have poor planning, that in the long run, you're going to end up spending, what is it, Becky, about 5% of your total assets to get yourself out of trouble when you could have just, paid up front and gotten all taken care of by a professional, somebody who knows what they're doing, and avoided all of this headache and stress for your loved ones and survivors afterwards. I mean, it's really, you're really doing it for the people you love. And, it's just important to do. And again, the reason that at least I know the people that I talk to, it's because there's just not enough education and there's not enough knowledge. They have no idea what they even need to be doing. So it's basically, let me tell you all the things.
Yep. And time is money, sister. Like I'm not going to go spend my time doing what you do when I have you available, because you do it every day. You went to school for this, you know what you're doing. Like, why would I waste hundreds of hours of my time trying to teach myself, being stressed out? Then when I screw it all up, because I'm going to, getting myself out of it, like Ally said, I'm paying a buttload of money anyway to do that. And how much more time? Like this is the stuff I see in my industry all the time when people think they can do it themselves. And it sounds like it's similar in your industry too.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing. I think, can you put it together? Sure. Do you know what you're doing? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, like, can I go in there and draft my own documents? Like, I'm relatively savvy. Sure, I could probably figure it out. Or let's say like a commercial lease. We do review them. It's largely my colleague, Michelle, who handles that. But let's say, so could I go in and review a commercial lease? Sure.
You're smart,
Am
girl.
I really good? I know. I was like, do I know really what I'm talking about though? Am I going to spin my wheels for a bit, or should I just get that on over to Michelle?
Right. Because
Get that over.
right, because you're not going to know. This is something I run into all the time. Yeah, you're a pretty smart person. You can read things, understand things. Cool, cool, great. But you don't know what those things could cause in the future to happen.
It's
Or
a
you don't
spider
know-
web trickle effect.
Exactly. You know, like for me in real estate, I've been doing it for long enough. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I've seen this train wreck before 1,000 times. Let's not go down
Right.
this road.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I could talk about that all day long, but let's not.
Yeah.
So I think we drove that one home. So let's talk. So we talked about minor children. We still have a couple of minutes to go here. If you guys can kind of fill me in and the audience in. What about our 18-year-olds that are hitting the world? They're all fresh-faced and bushy-tailed, and they're going to college, and they're getting their first job, and they're super wet behind the ears. Like, I'm 42 now, and I'm thinking to myself, God loved me when I was 18. I'm surprised I'm still like alive. You know what I mean? After
Right.
super terrible decisions I made. So as parents, wanting our young adults to, of course, be themselves, be adults, like, is there something that we should be thinking about for them?
Well, I want to jump on really quick and just put out there that I think everybody as a parent knows that, of course, your child knows everything.
Always.
So then when they turn 18, they're legal and they know everything. So it's just like, okay, well, I support you in your knowledge, but let me just tell you what the facts are. And so that leads us into proper planning, where we were all 18 once. Some of us went to college. Some of us didn't have to go to college to party like you were in college. We just really did it. It was really great.
Right.
But the reality is, and we all know because we all have friends or know somebody that experienced this, is sometimes when you've been released into the wild, you get a little cray and you make some bad choices, and some things can happen, including incapacity when you're over 18, or, sometimes other things happen, but, which is very tragic, but it happens. And so I'm going to leave it over to Becky to just fill you in on all the things that your 18-year-old's going to need, or what's best for them to have when you do release them into the wild.
Yeah.
The great
Perfect.
beyond.
Right. I know you're like, no, bro.
It's been a great 18 years. Bye-bye.
Bye. No, so you turn 18, right? And you are now an adult in the eyes of the law. You are free of your parents, which sounds amazing to some people. You can get out, move out of the house. Well, then who can make decisions for you? Now we jump right in with that question.
Right.
Like, sure, your parents are that natural first choice. If they are there, it'll be relatively easy for them to talk their way into it in a pinch. But when you're 18, you're an adult. And, if you are incapacitated, you are in a car accident, you come in a coma, they're not calling your parents because, number one, they don't know who they are necessarily.
Right.
If you haven't named anyone, or let's say, you're just going to school out of state, your parents aren't going to be there. Let's take like personal examples, right? So I went to law school in Colorado. I'm here from Arizona though. And when we moved up there, it's so funny given what I did now that it took me so long to get my planning in place. But we move up there with my boyfriend at the time, now husband, and who's going to take care of me and make decisions for me? No one. I didn't have anything in place. So my boyfriend isn't going to be let into the hospital. They're going to have to contact my parents in Arizona to try to make some decisions for me, but is their family closer? Do you have those kind of things in place? And also just even for, what am I trying to say? Kids who just, you grow up differently than your family, or you grow into a different person than your family has groomed you to be, right? And your decisions on how to live your life are not what your parents support.
So you may not want them to be in charge.
Right? And that can fall into any number. Maybe you just have an estranged relationship and you're like, yeah, no, I would never do that to them. I clearly want, my aunt who raised me from birth, or whatever.
Right.
And any number of reasons. My best friend, it was significantly more important in same-sex relationships before, similar rights, were acknowledged there.
Yeah.
And particularly when, it was so hard for families, right? So, or when you came out to your family, and thinking, oh, we're in June, we're in Pride Month, happy Pride, everybody. But as you're coming out, your family has, disowned you or won't speak to you. What then? You need to make sure you're naming your family who's going to be there, and they're the ones taking care of you.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead.
Is it the same procedure or similar procedure to, with minor children getting a guardian and all of that? Me as a brand new spanking 18-year-old, I would then come and see you and I'd be like, all right, sister, let's talk about it. And it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, sitting down and talking with an attorney, if at all possible. Necessary? No, because the type of powers of attorney that you're going to be putting in place are probably pretty basic.
Okay.
And those types of forms are honestly available for free online. Google search it, make sure you're getting the one for the right state. And, the Supreme Court puts out some here in Arizona, or puts out the general and special powers of attorney. And then it's the Secretary of State. I don't know why that went on. Attorney General, sorry, who puts out the life care planning packets that has to do with all your healthcare decisions and everything. So as an 18-year-old or a young person, or in a pinch, just to get that done, that's the way to go. And just get it done, get it filled out. So again, as we mentioned earlier, you have a plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'd recommend sitting down is really just for that education piece. So your kids know, so they, are having that that sort of conversation already, and we're starting to open up that, those types of discussions earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, because this is something they don't teach the kids in high school.
Right.
They're not going to teach them the importance of this. And, and our firm is doing this event actually on Thursday in Chandler at the Forum. And we are inviting pretty much anyone with an 18-year-old before they send them off to college to come and join us, hear a little spiel about just getting educated on why it's important, answer questions from the youth because they are going to have questions. And this is a really big step that they're taking. Obviously, you, when you turn 18 and you're an adult versus you at 28, 35 as an adult, it's a very different psychological process. Your brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things that they can't even comprehend or understand. And so it's really important to sit down with them and just explain what everything means and just have their options, of their own free will and their choice to fill out what they want for themselves. And it's free. Becky and I will be there Thursday at the Forum at noon in Chandler. Please come. You don't even have to be there. You could drop off your kid. There's a little cafe. They can grab lunch. Just have the conversation, have the dialogue with us, get their questions asked, and fill out the paperwork. Have it in their hand. And then when they leave, they're all taken care of. They can enjoy the rest of their summer. And
that's awesome. And how perfectly timed, with college starting up not too long from now. So that is Thursday, June 10th at the Forum, which I know very, very well. As you know, I love that place in Chandler. You guys are going to be there at noon. And that's for our Arizona audience that's local here in Phoenix. Now, as you know, MOMnation from the Heart is across the country. So what do our New Hampshire people have as far as options to connect with you? Our Washington people, our Illinois people, like, tell us a little bit about that. Can you still, I know you have the class here physically on Thursday, but can you still facilitate the same thing via Zoom or somehow online?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us. The info at Easton Law PLLC.com email address is probably the best to reach us. And, in any state, we can always give general advice. I'm only licensed in Arizona and Colorado. So that's the only place I could give you official legal advice. But the concepts are very similar everywhere, and I can always put you in touch with an attorney in your state, as long as I have one in my network. And we've got almost all 50 states now in our group. So yeah, if I can't help you, then I can always find someone who can.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you how that works because, like, with me and my business, I'm only licensed in Arizona, so I can't necessarily help somebody in Colorado. But I have colleagues across the country, and that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have colleagues in your network that are in these states that you could refer somebody to if needed? That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We're all personal family lawyers. So just personalfamilylawyer.com will let you search in your own state to find someone who's doing this type of comprehensive planning for you.
That is awesome. Do you ladies have anything else coming up that's noteworthy?
Let's see.
17th, we've got date night with a purpose. We're going to be hosting Wills and Wine. If you like to drink wine, loosens it up a little bit, talking about you're going to die one day. So we'll have some wine, talk about wills, why it's important. If you need more comprehensive planning, we can go into the discussion about possibly getting your family a trust, and Becky will talk more about that. But those are the really fun events that we have coming up this month. And then on the 24th, which is like the last Thursday of the month, we're having another Mass Sensory Playdate at Eastmark. And that information is located on our events page at Easton Law on Facebook. So we have some really fun activities coming up for families, and, just June, school ended in May, our kids are going to move on to do other stuff in September and August, even sometimes as early as July. So we want to have some fun with kids in the neighborhood, meet the parents, get all the kids squared away, make sure everybody's protected. And like always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to either reach out to us over our email or visit us online. We have tons of information on our Facebook page, and we are excited to meet you.
This is awesome. I was going to ask you exactly how to connect with you, and you already filled it all in. You guys are so good. You know the drill. You know how it is to talk with me. I love it.
Absolutely. Go
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll throw it out there for all of your listeners that, if you're interested in, particularly if you're in Arizona or even in Colorado, I get up to the Denver area quite a bit. If you're interested in us hosting, some kind of event for you, we can run, guardian nomination workshops where we talk about that, and you actually walk away with a signed guardian nomination that evening. That can even be run as a fundraiser, which is a really great team now that we're back in school. We have school sports and, your kids. So we need to raise money for baseball, pick your expensive sport. And
as so they all are.
Yeah, I know now. It used to be you just had a couple, right? They're all expensive now. But a lot of different opportunities to even just, get together and do fun things as client appreciation. Thinking of your real estate team or, anything like that. I don't know. We're fun, and we just like getting that information out there. And honestly, it's never, I think, one of the bad raps that attorneys get is that we're trying to sell you something, or we're being shady about it. And
same here, my industry.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. We get it. But that's not what we're about at all. I understand it, but that, we'd rather get you the information and then have you somehow decide that we're not a good fit. And, that's fine. We're not a good fit. for everybody, and that you are going to go work somewhere else, but at least you got the information from us, and that's, you know, good for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I know you guys, and you know, we've known each other for a little while now. We've had a few of these conversations. So I know, MOMnation, that they are good people. Ally, I've known you for, I've lost count. I don't know, years. We're just
Long
going to call it
time.
years at this point. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. Everybody out there, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please follow us at MOMnation USA. That's our handle on the YouTube, the IG. My friends are laughing out there because, you know, I'm only a Facebook girl, really. They got to help me with all the other stuff. But Facebook, I got you. And that is also our handle on Facebook. Find our page, give us a like while you're at it, and send us a quick message. Let us know who you are, what you're all about. We love having awesome guests just like the two that we have today on the show. Please, please, please also do me a favor. Go to your favorite podcast platform, subscribe, download, and rate us. So that way we can get this information out to the masses and the ears that need to hear it. Ladies, you're phenomenal. Big
Thank you,
love from
Katie.
Awatuki over to Eastmark. You guys are awesome.
Love you, girl.
Yes.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you guys so much, and have an awesome
Bye, everyone.
time on Thursday.
Thank you.
Will do.
Bye.
Bye, guys.